They completely quit.
Why does the number 5 jump out for this one before we get to star down?
5-0. 5-0 is what it was yesterday. Turnovers, Dallas had 5, Detroit had 0. Touchdowns, Detroit had 5, Dallas had 0. First half possessions with a lead, Detroit had 5, Dallas had 0. Second half possessions while trailing, Dallas had 5, Detroit had 0. 20-plus yard plays in the second half, Detroit had 5, Dallas had 0. And Detroit didn't even, I don't think they even punted in this game.
They didn't.
And
At least
so,
they didn't. But they showed a graphic late in the fourth. I don't remember if they did after that. I don't think they did.
9 straight scoring drives on Zimmer's D.
That's solid.
9.
It's really bad. And you're talking about thin margins, a fourth down catch from Jalen Tolbert, and some narrow plays in the Giants from this being a one-win football team right now. And and your one win being a Cleveland team that Nick Sirianni acts like a psycho when they scrape by against and stuff. But this is a bad football team. Like they're bad, and I think they know they're bad. And what you're starting to see right now, I think this is the initial seeds of what we had talked about leading into the year, which is if things go sideways, because nobody has, or there are a number of people here who don't have any sort of permanent future here with their contract statuses, you're going to start seeing people look into the door and what's my next thing? What's my next move? Where am I going next? Because it's not going to be here.
Did you run down your list of 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
When did you stop taking notes of this game?
Probably like right before Cooper Rush came in. I think we all looked at the clock and we're like, how's there 13 minutes left? I'm like, this is going to run. This is going to bleed over to Sunday Night Football.
I thought the clock has there a whole half left. Are you kidding me?
I don't know how they come out on that first drive. Dallas gets the ball, and they're doing something different. They're coming out, they're doing tempo. They're snapping the ball within like 15, 20 seconds each time. They're moving the ball effectively on that first drive. And I would have never believed that they were going to come out after that and just completely S the bed. I mean, they got a ton of man coverage in this game, which is something that CD typically has crushed, something that Dak has had a lot of success with. The numbers from NFL Pro on what the Cowboys did in man coverage in this game was absolutely absurd. Dak Prescott completed his first 3 passes against man coverage. After that, he was 2 for his next 14 for 31 yards and 2 interceptions.
Whoa. Woof.
Just
Ouch.
awful.
Look, we all knew that none of us got fooled by the Giants and Steeler games. That was just some nice padding. It was a pretty nice win on the road with Pittsburgh because they're tough and they're difficult and a pain in the rear end. But none of us got fooled by the end of the Baltimore game with that comeback. And you just wait for a high-quality football team to come in here, or you go there, and you get handled. That's the book on this team. We all know it. We saw it yesterday, and Jerry Jones was asked all the questions afterwards. Have you considered a change now at head coach?
Oh, I haven't even considered that. I'm not considering that. Just so you're clear, I'm not considering that.
But you've done it once before.
I wouldn't be a hypothetical in that matter. Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you? Okay, well, I'm not going hypothetical with you about when I'd consider coaching change in light of the timing we're sitting here with. I'm not at all.
So I never know with them how to judge and separate the egg from the yolk with being emphatic, showing support for your guys, and irritation over the situation. Jerry was not just taking his lumps last night in the post. He was a little bit irritated. Save that drop. Do you think I'm an idiot? As the collective Metroplex at 6:09 a.m. Central Time all said the same thing at once. But did he also say, I'm not considering, but I'm not going to tell you if I was considering?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, basically. He essentially, earlier in the press availability, he was asked about changes that he was going to make or would he evaluate coaching stuff, and he basically was like, I'm not getting into any of that with y'all. I'm not going to tell y'all. And then he comes back and tries to say something emphatic, and it's like, okay, well, I also remember a time, and not saying we're close. I don't think we're close like we were then. But it was what? 5 days before Wade Phillips was fired, he came on this station and said, I'm not like, that's not on the table. That's not happening. And then he fired him.
My wife last night, I thought she was going to sleep and going down for the evening, and she pops her head out of the covers and goes, is McCarthy really that bad? And I was like, you're supposed to be asleep. Why are you asking me this out of the blue? And she said, I'm looking at my phone. I'm looking at your poll question that you have up. And she goes, is McCarthy really this terrible? And I said, well, The football team, I'm going to start there, is not good enough. Mike McCarthy, though, is not good enough to overcome it. I still look at the personnel. I blame it on Jerry Jones first. This, for me, turned into a battle of fans and media versus the front office this entire offseason. From the all-in misinterpretation, we all don't know what that term means, to what they decided to do at running back, to a sit-down with Stephen A. Smith saying, I really don't understand why the fans don't think we're going to be really, really, really good again. This whole thing has felt like a battle between the two sides that right now we and the Tolo fans are winning 47-9. And that makes me petty and vengeful. And that's why last night I tweeted, hey, man, y'all, it's not the worst thing. If you believe that in the offseason, this team didn't do anything and they weren't going to be good enough, and you don't believe they're going to make some type of run in the playoffs, let's not have a Baltimore 2.0 here and come back. And I still look at that Baltimore score when I go back and do research, and I'm like, 28-25? What happened there? Root for it to get worse. Root for the beatdown. And I was texting y'all, just let them pour it on. So there's no doubt left. And it happens on Jerry Jones' 82nd birthday to make them sit in it while getting booed in Arlington and make them sit in it for the bye week.
Well, that's the thing. The bye week is the one that stings the most, because, like, the quarterback got booed. The head coach got booed. The owner got booed. The general manager got booed. They all did. The entire franchise was getting booed in that game, and they all have to just sit there and hear that for 2 weeks. Now they won't hear it. They'll convince themselves that it was something else.
Injuries.
They weren't even booing. They were saying Luke Schoonmaker, as they were saying. Right? They were just clamoring for him in the game.
It was a line call, what they do in the night.
That's right. Exactly what it was. It was Detroit. They were just chanting Jared Goff. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to hear that. Could you imagine being the quarterback of a football team and having to hear somebody else is quarterback, the other team's quarterback name get chanted in your stadium?
I'm just being honest with it, man. I was happy it got ugly. After it was evident they weren't going to win, I was happy it got uglier and uglier and more embarrassing, because a big change needs to happen around here. And this is a discussion for another segment and later on. Bobby's big concern, and a lot of people's concern, is if you bring someone in like Bill Belichick, which Jordan Schultz reignited last night, NFL reporter, has been on the show, and you're like, we're going to have to take a couple steps back to break this down for the way Bill wants to build it back up. I think we are at that point where a breakdown has to happen and needs to take place. So I'm more fine with that. Whereas before, I'm like, I don't want to lose Will McClay, and I don't want to lose some of the people who are getting 12-win seasons out of this group, and it just strictly being draft picks. I think we're at the point now where that breakdown is pretty obvious.
AT&T Stadium has been open for, this is its 16th season.
What direction does it face?
I don't know.
Well, it depends on which side you're on.
Boy, there's nothing.
East or west, we don't know.
There's nothing worse.
I know what direction it faces, and it's not the one.
Seems to always face into the sun, no matter what time of year it is.
So, in the 15, 16 years it's been open, the first 112 games that were played at that stadium, the Cowboys allowed 44 points 2 times. And in the last 4, they've done it 3 times. They are currently in the midst of the greatest home field collapse this organization has seen in 65 years of existence.
Which none of us saw coming. After last year, they were invincible.